wanted to kick off the first episode with the theme I call Finding Light in Darkness. And the reason why I want to start with this episode is because this was the most pivotal moment in time, not only in my life, but it also correlated to my business, in which, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we are one to really study and learn from others. And it could be overwhelming when we see other entrepreneurs on their chapter 10, and then we forget there was 9 chapters before that, right? So my intention with this podcast is to really speak to those you solopreneurs who are maybe going through a dark time, and to shed some light on that, pun intended, because the darkest time is what allowed me to not only build the life that I'm living at the moment, it allowed me to really build my multiple 6-figure marketing company. It allowed me to move where I wanted to live. It allowed me to really enjoy myself and truly, really find a deeper purpose within. And that's going to be really the motto, is really teaching and sharing experiences I did to really shine. I think as a solopreneur, it's important to realize that you are your business, right? How you show up in your business is a reflection of the results you get in your business. So finding light in the darkness really stems from where I was when I first started my business, right? So, this is 7 years ago, and we're talking about 2016. And I was just in a very dark place in kind of all areas of my life. I just got out of a 5-year relationship, so I was dealing with emotions from that. I financially was not going through a good time. I racked up $17,000 in credit card debt. I had a BMW at that time that I was 3 months behind. I was paying the car payment, wasn't paying car insurance, and living in Massachusetts, if you have no car insurance, they'll actually go ahead and if they pull you over and you don't have any insurance, they will tow your car and take it away. And so I was already 3 months into not paying my car insurance. And I laugh at it now because it's funny. When I was going through it, it wasn't funny. I was in a constant worry, constant struggle of like, oh, I better not get pulled over because they're going to tow my car. So it definitely was not a good time in my life. And I was trying to become a real estate agent at that time and did not work out. I actually failed the real estate test by 3 points. And it kind of shows you where the universe takes you, right? And it allows you to, there's a reason why I failed. But of course, at that time, not knowing and not having the awareness, I was just really disappointed in myself and was kind of just struggling on finding my purpose and what to do. So this is where I was, right? So I was financially in debt, emotionally drained, right? Physically, I gained 40 pounds in 3 months. I got a corporate job for 6 months that I just hated, miserable. It was just miserable for me. I hated it. It was just an energy sucker. And I share with you these details because this is the truth of understanding how to find the light when you're going through dark days. And to give you context, right? So like, this is me going through a rough time emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, right? And what was the most humblest thing, to give you context, was a year before that and the 6 years previous to that, that was not even close to the case, right? So when I was 19, I ended up dropping out of college to pursue teaching karate and martial arts. Shout out to Ocasio's True Martial Arts. That was my college. And I made that decision because for me, I started reading books and started realizing, man, there's so much more power to be in environments that are positive and uplifting. And it was being in the karate school was the first time ever that I was in a positive environment. And it was the first time ever that I was actually addressing things of my self-esteem and self-worth and my confidence. And I remember to this day, like it was yesterday, and I walk into the dojo for my first official karate class, and I put on my gi, and I'm a little bit, it's a little bit awkward. We haven't been in that environment or wearing a gi, we're not used to that. And I go in, and these kids, I'm telling you, these young kids are just super confident. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this 7-year-old is going, ayah, ayah, ayah. And it was just such a humbling experience at 19 years old, right? I think at 19 years old, we're still at a point where ego dictates a lot of our life. So fast forward a few years into karate, I fell in love not only with the environment, but with the art, because it was like mind, body, spirit. It was the first time me addressing things. And I took that very serious. I committed myself fully to become a full-time instructor, ended up becoming a third-degree black belt, taught hundreds of kids per week, and I really started to understand patterns. And I was forced into a leadership position and a role, right? So that role gave me such fulfillment and purpose and passion. And then I just became fully obsessed with personal development. At 19, I went to my first Anthony Robbins seminar, right? So I got that energy, the boost, and it was the first time I actually started addressing things that happened to me as when I was a kid. And it was the first time of me just letting go of things and actually processing things. And it's a lot of the things that we're not taught in school, right? So it was just like I was on top of the world, right? And teaching karate brought me so much fulfillment, working with kids and working with I had kids, adults, 3-year-olds, all the way up to a grandmother that was like 63. So it was super fulfilling, and I had so much purpose and passion, and it was easy for me to get up and be motivated and positive because my identity was like Mr. Miyagi, right? I was the sensei at that time, and it was easy for me to stay in that role, right? So imagine spending 6 years of your life and you're doing well, right? Like I'm 24, 25 years old at this time. And, a lot of my friends are in college, getting out of college and trying to figure out their careers. And I'm over here, kicking ass literally and metaphorically in life, reading every day, working out every day, inspiring others, making a difference in community, doing community service. Like it was the whole shebang. And a lot of my teachings, and you'll hear this a lot in this podcast, is a lot of my martial arts and karate metaphors, because it really created such a big impact in my life, right? So that's the context of painting you the picture of where I was in my life, right? And I chose to step away from teaching karate for a few reasons. One mostly is that I dealt with working with kids a lot, and I realized kids are not the issues, it's us adults. But another thing is I really want to explore, starting my own business, working for myself, eventually exit out of Massachusetts, although I love my family, friends. For me, I never enjoyed the cold. So it was always a passion of mine to, living somewhere else was like a dream at that point, right? It was like, oh my gosh, like it felt such like a huge dream of mine that if I could just get out of Massachusetts or get out of Haverhill, where I was born and raised, and live somewhere where I truly enjoy the weather, like that would be amazing. And when I walked away from that, I realized that my identity as a karate teacher is what was fueling my light, right? And that's one mistake I made, and it really humbled me, because after being that superstar instructor, everyone's looking up to you, everyone's coming to me for advice in all areas of life. I'm helping kids, stay in school, get good grades, clean their rooms, become black belts. Like it was such a overwhelming feeling of losing that identity that it really led me to my darkest days. And I'm excited to share the dark days because it's easy to see me now and like, oh, Josh, you're so positive and uplifting and you're like a light, right? And it's like, well, it was because the darkest days that I faced that was allowed me to guide me towards the light. So I was really humbled by life and the weight gain, the losing. No one was coming up to me and asking me for advice. Like I really lost passion to even read anymore. Working out felt like a chore. So this is where I was in 2016, and I ended up getting a corporate job that I just had to get just to pay the bills. And a few months later, I quit that corporate job to then do a real estate job because I thought I was going to become a real estate agent. Ended up failing that by 3 points, like I said. And that led me to work at this real estate company that changed my pay structure. They went from salary and commission to just straight commission. And at that point, this is when my insurance was gone. This is when I was at the lowest of low financially. And then I see an ad. I see an ad on my Instagram and my Facebook, and it's a marketer called Ty Lopez who is offering a course on how to start your own marketing agency. And I took a look at this ad. I was like, like I was managing the karate school. So not only was I teaching, I understood the business side. And I got really obsessed with business because the better I got at business, the more karate students I could impact. And so I'm over here in my darkest days, lost and confused, ended up moving in back with my mom, living in my mom's house, feeling like a failure because of my previous experience. And I was just stuck, right, in all ways. And I saw this ad, and it was like my glimmer of hope. It was like, wow, I can start my own business and I can help people market their business utilizing social media. I was already utilizing social media with the dojo and doing pretty well with it. So it sparked the idea. The issue is I'm in $17,000 in debt. I don't really have income coming in because my job switched to commission only. And I just had a dollar in a dream, right? So at that point, I ended up selling someone $1,500 worth of personal development coaching because what I did still have was my experience teaching people martial arts. So I ended up selling this person who was looking for help with mindset. And it's crazy how this works, right? It's like you think you have imposter syndrome, which happens a lot, right? So I'm in this place where I'm in my darkest days, but then someone's coming up to me for advice and I know I can help them, but I feel like a phony because I'm still going through a dark days, right? But I said, you know what? My experience with the karate school and all the hundreds of books I read at that point and the seminars that I've been to, I'm like, I can at least help this person get to point B, right? Because I felt like I was already at point B, although I was in my darkest days, I still had a lot of wisdom and experience. So that was my first step of like imposter syndrome. And I ended up making $1,500 to help this person out, which that person ended up doing amazing and still doing amazing to this day. So shout out to them. And I actually made the $1,500. And that $1,500 was the exact same price of how much it cost for this program. Now, I have a few options running through my head. I'm going, do I take this $1,500 and fill up my gas tank and maybe catch up on car insurance? Right. My logical side was saying, no, just pay off some of your credit card, catch up on car insurance, and then go to the next step. Right. But there was all it took was like a little piece of light that said, you know what, Josh? F it. Put this inside a program because if you invest it and you can figure it out, you'll be able to start your own business and then life will completely change, right? So that's what I did. And that same day, And I have a picture. I'll have to find it. That same day I made $1,500. I literally ate 2 hot dogs for lunch at work, and I didn't even have hot dog buns. I'm talking about, it was wheat bread and 2 hot dogs, and didn't even have ketchup. I just had leftover ranch dressing from the refrigerator from other coworkers. And that day for lunch, I ate 2 hot dogs on wheat bread with ranch. And I remember taking a picture of it and posting it on Snapchat, and I still have that picture. I'll have to find it and I'll post it. And I remember thinking, and I posted and I said, when you make $1,500 in one day, and granted, that's a lot for me at that time because I was really in the financial crunch, and then you reinvest it. And I put hashtag Elon Musk flow, because I read stories that, all the wealth that Elon Musk made from PayPal and all his businesses, he kept reinvesting it. So I understood there was something out of that. And I said, you know what? I was such at a dark, low point. I had to let go of my ego because it couldn't get worse. I was already at rock bottom. So why not? Right? And I made that decision, and that decision single-handedly changed my life forever, because I was able to start my business, and in a month later after I got the program, I quit my job, and I said, I am never coming back here ever again. And people thought I was crazy. My family thought I was crazy. It was a very tough time. I barely had money to eat food sometimes. I would, pray that my family would have leftovers for meals. Like, that's how hard it was. And no one remembers that part of me, because a lot of solopreneurs, and if you're going through a dark time, one of the things of going through a dark time is you isolate yourself. And I was very isolated myself, which is very weird because I'm an extrovert, but that's part of going through the darkness, and I was able, through that moment and moving forward, build my business, right? And, fast forward years later, I built a multiple 6-figure company. I was able to live in beautiful areas. I lived in Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona, Sedona, Arizona. I lived a year in Cancun. I have a beautiful son. I have a beautiful fiance. I have a beautiful life and family. And I say that because 7 years ago, when I'm in that moment, there was nothing that you could tell me that, like, there was nothing that was like that I could have done at that moment to truly believe that what I was going to accomplish was going to happen, right? And all it took was me staying committed to what felt right within, and that's what allowed me to find my light through darkness. So I wanted to share that story as the first episode of this podcast, because I think it's super important moving forward. All the success, I will be sharing a lot of success stories, right? And I wanted to share with you just the darkest moments of my life, because I think it's important for us to just get real and vulnerable right from the get-go, because it's going to be important. And that's one thing I realized what darkness does. It strips you, and there's no ego involved when you reach your darkest days, because you then realize you're not fooling anyone, right? There's no one to keep up with. It's really just you versus you. And that's the true journey of a solo entrepreneur. It's going to be you versus you. And if you're going through a dark time as a solo entrepreneur, you're having struggles or difficulty, stay focused on that little speck of light that will eventually turn into a big, bright light. But don't lose hope, because what's to come will always be greater than where you're currently at. And I want to make sure you stay focused on that tunnel vision for what you want in your business as well as your life. So this wraps up the first episode of the Solopreneur podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time and spending time with me and getting real and raw. And make sure you subscribe. Please leave some reviews below and let me know what your thoughts are. And if you are also a solo entrepreneur going through a hard time, please, at any moment, feel free to reach out. I am a lighthouse. I'm here to stand in my light, to guide you back to your light, because that is how we grow in life and in business. It's been real. And just a reminder, be the light.